Hello, thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, your program that puts the searchlight on topical issues in the polity. My name is Benga. I'm really glad to be here as we begin a fresh week. Now, let's quickly race through the polity to update you on some of the events trending at the moment. Now, let's start from Umuahia, Abia State, which erupted in joy on Friday as news filtered in from Abuja that the Apex Court had confirmed Governor Okezie Ikpeazu as the lawfully elected governor of the state. A five-man panel of justices of that court delivered judgment in a case that had to do with the validity of the PDP primaries, which produced Okezie Ikpeazu as a candidate of the party, who then went on to win the governorship election in April 2015. A member of the PDP, Dr. Uche Oga, who came second in the primaries and rejected the results, had instituted a pre-election case at the Federal High Court in Abuja and alleged that the task certificates tendered by Ikpeazu contained discrepancies, and so his candidacy should be validated. Justice Okon Abang, who heard the case, went ahead to rule in his favor, and then, like Father Christmas, ordered INEC to issue a certificate of return to Uche Oga so that he could be sworn in by the Abia State Chief Judge as governor, a decision which obviously flies in the face of clear provisions of the Electoral Act. And so, at the Court of Appeal, Justice Helen Ogunwumiju was unsparing in her harsh words for Justice Okon Abang, whom the court accused of standing the law on his head. But that did not deter Uche Oga, who then proceeded to the Supreme Court. But on Friday, the Supreme Court upheld the findings of the Court of Appeal and affirmed that Ikpeazu could not be held liable for whatever errors were on the tax certificate issued to him by the Abia State Revenue Board. And instantly, as I said, Umuahia, the state capital, erupted in wide jubilation. Governor Ikpeazu described the judgment as a relief and called on his opponents to put this behind and join him in the task of building the state.
I dedicate this victory to the people of Abia State for their sustained support and prayers. I want to seize this opportunity to thank all churches, clergymen, and indeed the masses and common people of Abia State for remaining steadfast in their support all through this tortuous and long journey. 2 years down the line, we were still in court. But today, God has granted us victory finally, so that the ends of the world will know that there is God in Abia State. This is a call for our rededication to our goals and visions to take Abia to the next level. And the battle and journey towards Abia's greatness has just begun. This is a victory for unity and a unified entity called Abia. This victory is not for any individual, it is for Abia State. Amen. Because I can imagine the machinations of those who thought that the best way to go was to separate those fabrics and strings that bind us together as one people.
Okay, and still trending in the polity, the alleged preferring of the London Paris Club loan refund to states of the Federation. That matter has been trending. It's by the governors of the benefiting states. That issue is getting messier. I'm sure you have heard of these developments before now, and the deniers as well. But now, things are taking shape. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) says it has located a hotel being built in Lagos by the governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, and it's from the $3 million he got as his share of the consultancy fee allegedly paid by the governors to a team of consultancy firms to help them share the refunds paid en bloc into the accounts of the Nigerian Governors Forum (NGF) by the Federal Ministry of Finance through the Central Bank of Nigeria. You are confused? Okay. Let me break it down a bit so you understand how messy this is. Now, in paying back some loans owed to the London Paris Club by the federal and state governments, the federal government had made over deductions from the accounts of the states that were owing, which in itself I find very funny. What necessitated over deduction in the first place? Now, that's the first query. But let's go on. Now, subsequently, these over deductions were discovered, and so the extra deductions had to be paid back to the states. Now, it's from here the story gets complicated. If the over deductions were made from the different states' account, is it not possible that what was over deducted from each state is known and should be paid back directly to each state account? But no, this is Nigeria. Simple things must be made complicated. So the money was then paid by the federal government to the, not to the states, but to the Nigerian Governors Forum. Now the NGF on this part, with agreements of the governors, I suppose, then decided to hire consultants to help them share the money. Yes, and you know, consultants now, they charge percentage of the money to be shared, and so that accounts for the huge monies being bandied here and there. I don't know at what point the governors in their personal capacities were dragged in sharing, the sharing, or whether they are the consultants, and I don't know whether it's also a percentage of what was due each state government that the governors were also paid as commission, or what was originally taken out supposedly as commission for the consultants. You know how complicated this is now? But back to the latest development on this trending story. Now, the weekend, the FCC says it has located a 100-room hotel Governor Yari is building, not in Zamfara State, which money this is in the first place, but in Lekki area of Lagos, from his own share of, well, $3 million. I don't know whether it's as a consultant as well. There's also the talk of another cash sum of 500 million naira. The governor had also paid to a finance house as repayment for a loan he took, maybe to build a house or to finance his election. And this has already been recovered from that finance house by the FCC. Now here, several questions are begging for answer. Why pay monies that belong to different states into the accounts of the Nigerian Governors Forum in the first place, when the Federal Minister of Finance knew how much was due to each state, and each state is supposed to have account with the CBN? And at the level of the Nigerian Governors Forum, why hire consultants to share when each state already knew what was due it? By the way, Governor Abdulaziz Yari is the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. He is an APC member. So the anti-corruption war is gradually coming home. Anyway, let's leave this matter. We'll keep our eyes on the ball. All right, our discussion is up next. It's an issue that touches on one aspect of the ease of doing business in Nigeria, how to resolve disputes arising from business transactions. Now, for 2 weeks running now, one of Nigeria's biggest players in the downstream sector of the oil and gas industry, Dr. Ifeanyi Ubah, chairman of Capital Oil, has been held by the DSS without being charged to court. The travail of this businessman arises from his business relationships with the National Oil Company, that is the NNPC. The businessman was accused by the NNPC of selling without his authority some products imported and stored in his tank farms. Now, whilst not denying the allegations, the businessman insists that the NNPC has been owing him on account of previous transactions without any concrete agreement as to the terms of repayment, and without taking into account mounting inflation which ultimately is to his own disadvantage. And this has been going on since 2015 or so. Capital Oil, owned by Ifeanyi Ubah, says it had severally called on NNPC to meet with its officials so that they could balance their accounts and continue their mutual business relationships, which has helped greatly in sustaining the current relative stability in products distribution and availability nationwide. It's an indisputable fact that Capital Oil alone is responsible for over 30% of storage and distribution facilities for petroleum products in the country. So it's a major partner with the NNPC. Last week, lawyers to the embattled businessman, having waited for several days without the man being released, initiated the court process to secure his release from his long incarceration without trial. But this morning, the concerns we are raising essentially arise from the government's handling of what appears to be a pure business relationship, which could be resolved without the government appearing to use its advantage by calling for self-help from its coercive agencies, the security agencies. What are the signals this is sending out as regards doing business in Nigeria generally? Our discussion, of course, will start from this premise shortly.
They see chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
Just joining us, a very warm welcome to you. We're starting this morning's conversations now because my guests are here. Right Honorable Ben Chuks Nwosu is joining us for these discussions. He's a legal practitioner, former lawmaker as well. Was he acting speaker at the point also?
Yes. State House of Assembly.
Yes.
During the impeachment of Mr. Peter Obi.
Good to see you. It's been a long while.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ariodare Atoye is also joining us for this discussion. He's a pro-democracy activist, co-convener, coalition in defense of on Nigeria democracy and constitution. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for seeing me.
All right. You already heard when I was doing my opening. We're looking at the travails of Capital Oil and its chairman, Dr. Ifeanyi Ubah. And of course, we'll be looking at this purely from what this brings to the table when it comes to the ease of doing business in Nigeria. It's a fact that Nigeria has been ranking very badly on ease of doing business in Nigeria. And one of the index that has been getting us very low points is how we resolve disputes between two partners when there's a dispute in a business deal and all of that. And this dispute between Ifeanyi Ubah, Capital Oil on one hand, and the NNPC, of course, is a clear example of that. First, you were not part of the legal team defending this issue, or you are handling some other areas?
I'm handling some other areas.
Okay. The defense team was in court on Friday, I suppose, to ask for his production before the court. He wasn't produced in court, but let's hear from Barrister Oluyede, who led the legal team after the proceedings on that day.
Continues to remain in incarceration by DSS unjustifiably because he has done nothing criminal. According to the claim of the DSS, he has released some product into the market, which according to them belong to the NNPC. Now, this product, even if it is true that he released this into the market. And he released it into the market to save the nation from a crisis of shortage. Now, they claim that product is worth 11 billion naira. Now, they themselves admit that they are owing him 14 to 16 billion naira. But they say, I don't know what kind of business sense that is, that he must pay them first. He must pay their own 11 billion first before they will consider paying his own 16 billion. And it's for that reason that they got the DSS, because they're a government parastatal, to arrest and to detain him and to paint him like a criminal when they know that he has done nothing wrong.
That's a brief summary of probably the foundation of this case, but it wasn't produced in court last Friday.
It is a succinct summary of the whole saga concerning NNPC, Ifeanyi Ubah, and Capital Oil. And you must recall that before the Easter period, he was also arrested. And during that time, he was made to part with the sum of 2 billion naira. And you begin to ask yourself, is the DSS...
Who made him to part with?
He was in the custody of DSS.
So he paid the money to DSS or NNPC?
That is the evidence we have. That he parted with 2 billion naira to SSS before he was released 2 weeks after.
He paid NNPC through the DSS?
That is the point. Okay. And it is a big joke. It is a big embarrassment. It is a big... we are getting into a state of anarchy where a security agency is made to be a debt recovery establishment. And you are talking about inviting investors or the ease of doing business. This is one slap on the face of that kind of concept. In the process of parting with that 2 billion, they purported to make him enter into some agreements. You and I know, you don't need to be a lawyer, that any agreement entered under duress is dead on arrival. You took somebody, you invited somebody, you detained him, and in your premises, you purport to enter into agreement with him in your compound. It goes to no issue before.
You know the terms of that agreement?
They purported to have made him sign some documents relating to NNPC Retail Limited, made him sign documents relating to Amcon Limited. All these things are coercive and unconstitutional. And as far as I'm concerned, we are saying that Ifeanyi Ubah has no criminal record, does not have any criminal record, and that the DSS that is keeping him, that went ahead and published a derogatory libel that he is a criminal, he has stolen 11 billion worth of petroleum products in his custody. And the man, Capital Oil, has said, NNPC, they are owing me. There's also an unreserved account between me and them. It's a business relationship running for years. They load in products through the process of what they call throughput. You bring in, we siphon from the mother vessel or from the daughter vessel to the tanks, and then we offload into your own vehicles for onward distribution. That is throughput process. In this process, your debts arise. And NNPC is owing them.
Of course.
Capital Oil has also said, we paid you some money to bring us products as Capital Oil and Gas. You have not done that. So there are ongoing accounts unresolved between Capital Oil and NNPC. In law, there's what you call lien. It means that if there's any product in the custody of Capital Oil, whilst NNPC is owing Capital Oil has a lien on that product. I believe it was in the process of this that those products were sold. In any event, there's an agreement, a subsisting agreement, not yet jettisoned, between Capital Oil and Gas and NNPC, to the effect that if such a product is sold by Capital Oil and Gas or anybody, you will bring it, you will pay back. That is to say, you will replace the product plus 1% on top. normal business transaction, nothing criminal. My question, you want to arrest somebody, you prepared a press release to the effect that he is a criminal, he is a thief. The man gets in, and it comes out that between you and him, you're talking about 11 billion. And he is saying that by my own account, you are owing me 16 billion. If you take away your 11 million from 16, what remains?
It will still be the one that, to be paid money. But it may not be as simple as that. Even if it's not as simple as that, Ario, from the whole gamut of everything that has been in the public on this issue, this is a purely business relationship that ought not to be criminalized in the first place for obvious reasons. Number one obvious reason is the fact that NNPC does not have the capacity to be the only player in this sector. It depends on the private sector.
Yes.
And one private sector that indisputably has been a major partner of the NNPC over the years.
In the downstream sector.
In the downstream sector is Capital Oil. Yes. That alone is responsible for over 30% of storage facilities, because even the NNPC doesn't have storage facilities of its own. Yes. So even if the NNPC brings in product, it will use those facilities to store it. Yes. It will use the facilities of those major players, yes, for the purposes of distribution and all of that. Yes. So it's a purely business relationship that ought not to be criminalized in any way.
Yeah, let me respond to this, Mr. Benga. I read a statement of the DSS, and with all due respect to DSS, I believe that their action is inimical to national security themselves. In the sense that when you look at a very responsible organization, any action you want to take, you look at the imports and the implication of your action on the general well-being of a nation. Now, if you are dealing with someone, let's even agree, let's even probably maybe assuming without considering that, because more or less our nation has become more or less like a criminal enterprise. Assuming without considering that even if Ifeanyi is wrong, on the premise of it, even under, the premise of the fact that probably maybe things are bad, or maybe we operate a criminal enterprise, you have to first even look at the strategic importance of the persons you are dealing with in terms of his contribution to the economy of the country. Now, as we're talking to you, the depot is closed down, thousands of workers, their means of living, livelihood are threatened. Now they are not working, they're not going to get paid. Now, what is the implication of that to national security? Now, we have looked at this issue on the merit of it. You see, it's curious and very, very troubling in the sense that when we look at the intricacy of this case, Capital Oil has done adverts, has done statements, stating the position of things regarding what is actually the true position of this transaction. NNPC, that has been accused in this instance, has not deemed it fit to even issue a common simple statement to discountenance or to deny what Capital Oil has issued out. Yeah. Now, is it taking advantage of your connection, because you are also a corporation of the federal government, and not taking advantage of that, employing the coercive instrument of the state using the DSS, to deal with a non-state business partner in a purely business transaction is inimical to national security. So basically, it goes back to them that what the DSS and the NNPC are jointly doing is inimical, undermines our own national security as a nation, simply because what we are doing now is that some other persons, who are probably maybe wanted to do business, with the NNPC or the Nigerian government, will be scared by your attitude and your action. And probably maybe even when they are coming in, they will be less sincere in terms of dealing with you, because they don't know what will actually happen. And you see, my major worry here, Benga, is the fact that this thing is going to become a vicious circle. You remember when former President Obasanjo moved against Sloke Hair, and the Sloke business group of businesses, that's owned by former governor of, I think, Abia, Orji Lokabi. You remember, sure, because of a political disagreement. We're also back to that kind of era. Probably maybe there are certain underlying motives. And I think what we should look at is we need to properly interrogate this issue. America is interrogating a political interference of national security dimension. Nobody has been put behind the bar. Nigeria is, the DSS is claiming that somebody has committed an economic crime in order to externalize and say that it's of national security dimension, so that you have the justification, for keeping this man. You kept on the first time and you are keeping it. And you see,
because I was going to link to that.
Let me just quickly add this.
Okay.
Let's be worried about the DSS in the sense that the agency is trying to demystify its own powers and functions, because this is the only last agency standing that Nigerians still have some sort of respect modicum of respect for. And that is the biggest worry I'm having now is about that.
And when the DSS becomes a debt recovery agency,
then you demystify the DSS as just another agency of government that is a busybody doing all sorts of things that is totally outside the scope of its own operational function.
That is another worry. Because so far, the NNPC has not denied all the claims that have been made for months by Capital Oil, that this is a business relationship. These are the books. And Capital have some documents, agreements between Capital Oil and NNPC that have been published by Capital Oil, which, if you read critically, puts the NNPC in a position of disadvantage. And that is curious. Why will a state agency behave like that? And the platform on which the DSS seem to be acting is that they accuse Capital Oil or Ifeanyi Ubah of trying to incite workers in the downstream sector to embark on sympathy strike with it. Is the government not making that inevitable? Because if the owner of a company that employs thousands of workers that is responsible for over 30% of the activities going on in that sector is facing this kind of travail, it's obvious that one way or the other it will affect the company and it will affect the workers. And so if they are on strike, who has precipitated it?
Look, Gbenga, when you were saying all the things you just said, what was occurring to my mind is who warranted the power to go into recovery of debt by DSS in a matter between NNPC and Capital Oil. Wherein NNPC has said, we are not connected with this arrest. Remember, they published and said, we are not involved with the arrest. Under whose authority is DSS working?
Or in whose interest?
In whose interest? They say presidency. What presidency? You see, sometimes a good president like Buhari is painted black, made to be demonic and evil by the agencies around them. I am not sure that the president is aware of this kind of brigandage. Remember in the case of Ojukwu versus the governor of Lagos State, the courts have frowned at actions Vietnamese using the force of police or whatever to do even a right thing the wrong way.
As per Justice Ogundade, it is executive lawlessness.
You should be a lawyer. Now, this is one example of executive lawlessness. Yes. And I give you instances. One, the money you have recovered, the man was in custody when you made him to sign for the release of 2 billion naira to you. What happened? What is the definition of such extraction or extortion? It is stealing. You accused him of stealing. He came into your custody. You stole 2 billion from him. Because there's no resolution between him and NNPC as to who should part with money. In any event, why should somebody be in your custody and you force him to part with money before he regains his freedom? Why should a court of law, a competent court of law with jurisdiction, give an order for production and you do not obey it? Is this a jungle? What has Ifeanyi Ubah done that warrants the kind of treatment and bad media, bad press that he's getting? What I'm trying to say is that the more they keep Ifeanyi Ubah, the more negative impact it has on the image of this government as regards foreign business and business atmosphere generally. The more it affects the thinking of Nigerians in terms of You know so many cases that are going on in court, where some people are being used as mop from one detention center to one courtroom. Others are given, they are not obeyed. Detention orders are discountenanced with by courts, and the holding agency does not recognize it. This is not good. This is not good for Nigeria. It is not good for business. It is not good for anything that is good for the democracy of Nigeria. We are going in a way that makes Nigeria look like one jungle where brigands operate. Ifeanyi Ubah should be released today.
Let me just quickly add to something even inside. You see, in the case between Al-Mustafa versus the state, there is what we call trial within trial. When testimony was obtained under duress from Mustafa, I was in court that day. I'm not a lawyer, but I was in court that day, and the judge in its very what you call learned judgment dismissed that statement that you cannot do that under duress. And this is the decision of
forcing somebody into a boxing ring and you have his hands tied.
And you ask him to fight back.
This is the decision of the court in Nigeria, and there is no way the DSS can work contrary to that. And
they are wasting their time.
And I think that
the issue here,
yes,
the products that Capital Oil allegedly sold,
yes,
the NNPC has an account of the quantity of products it offloaded into Capital Oil's facilities.
yes,
the product has a monetary value.
yes,
yes,
The NNPC has a substituting agreement with Capital Oil that
yes,
in case I keep product in your custody
and you part with it,
and you sell it,
yes,
when you are paying me back, it has to be with additional 1%
interest. Yes,
absolutely.
These are agreements that are between the two parties.
Yes,
If the NNPC has a product of about 11 million liters
yes,
in Ifeanyi Ubah Capital Oil's custody,
yes,
and Ifeanyi Ubah sold it,
yes,
perhaps it's in the interest of the NNPC as well, because if you leave your product in the tank farm, it acquires demurrage.
it was in the interest of Nigeria.
Which you are going to
as
be
at
paying,
the time he sold it.
which you are going to be paying to the owner of the facility.
Simple.
But if the man tried to solve all of that by selling the product, in any case, there is a market for it, which was why it was sold. It has not been alleged that the man drank
Does he drink
the 11 million liters. It also has not been alleged that the products were taken outside of Nigeria. They were sold because there was a demand for it in Nigeria.
There was a crisis. There was a crisis at the time. Remember, if Mr. President was about to be sworn in, don't let's not forget history. It's just a recent.
That's what I said. That there was a
Mr.
demand
President
for
was
it.
about to be sworn into office, and there was this sudden scarcity of petroleum products, which nobody could explain. And Ifeanyi Ubah thought fit to say, I have this thing in my custody. I can alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. And in terms of security,
And bear the 1%.
and bear the extra cost on my own. That will be my contribution to the stability and progress of this country. That was what he did. Now he's being vilified for that. He let these petroleum products into the Nigerian market, and there were no queues, no strikes, nothing. And the transition went on smoothly without the threat or security implications of petroleum products being scarce at the time a president is being sworn into power. Shouldn't he get a national award for that?
I think we, in all sincerity of purpose, because we have to also look at the overall interest of this country, and I think at this point in time there is need for us to have what we call an independent investigation of activities of the NNPC. This is very important and sacrosanct in the overall interest of this nation, simply because what the man did at that point in time was like trying to rescue the nation, or was actually rescuing the nation. He did that in the overall interest of this country. You didn't praise him, just like you said. But what we have seen now is that you are asking him to pay back the 11 billion naira. Now, why I'm saying that there is need for independent inquiry into this issue is simply because there are certain things that are going on that are beyond imagination. And I think that the National Assembly has done several investigations. We have not seen anything purposeful from that. And probably maybe there are some certain within the executive assessments of that sector. We've not seen anything from that. I think the only thing left for us now is to have an independent assessment of what's going on in NNPC. Simply because it's difficult to understand that you have a business, transaction or agreement with somebody, and because you allege that that person sold the product, you decide to go behind the scene to use the coercive instrument of the state, to oppress, intimidate a business partner. And let me say this, Nigerians should know that they should not let us look like fools as a nation simply because there are ways that businesses are done globally. You know that in any business, big business transaction, there are clauses. Usually there is always a clause for arbitration when there are disagreements in terms of, because it could always happen that when we're doing our business together, there will be a point in time, probably maybe one partner decide to default, or probably there are issue of irreconcilable disagreement. That's why we always have arbitration clauses.
And in this particular case, it's not a question of arbitration clause. It's a question of the business transaction has already taken care of itself. Because it envisages that if you keep products in my custody,
yes,
I may sell.
Yes.
For whatever reasons,
yes,
I may sell. And if I do sell,
I will pay.
I will pay back,
yes,
with interest,
1%.
with 1% interest.
And
let me read some tweets. Maybe you also respond to it. Yes. Ejimbe Bernard is saying, is DSS a debt recovery agent? Okay, that's not a question. Victor Amawule says, is it lawful that even if the NNPC is owing Uber, that it should, without their consent, sell their product under his care?
I am saying that it is written between Uber and between Capital Oil and NNPC.
They have a substituting agreement.
Yes, there's an agreement that says if it occurs, you will replace the product plus payment of 1% interest on top. It didn't say that you will get an authority before you do that. They envisage that such a situation might arise, and it arose. The question I'm asking is, what is the business of DSS in this transaction between Capital Oil and NNPC? When all the clauses of the agreement between the two parties, between the contracting parties, has not collapsed, they have not finished with arbitration, they have not gone to a court of law that gave a judgment in favor of NNPC, which Ifeanyi Ubah or Capital Oil has failed to implement. They have just stepped, they had, the DSS is just what you call meddlesome interlopers.
Absolutely.
They are not parties to the transaction. They have no reason to be parties to the transaction, but they have stepped in and truncated a cordial relationship between Capital Oil and Gas and NNPC. And NNPC, Mark, you have said, we are not part of this distinction. We don't know anything about this distinction. Who is DSS working for? They said you want to incite truck owners or whatever you call them, the tanker drivers to go on strike. Benga, you know in this country, you are old enough to know that tanker drivers have gone on strike as and when
they like.
It doesn't need anybody's incitement to do that.
It might be.
How come that it is this time that a witch cried in the night and in the morning a child died? What has Ifeanyi Ubah done that you have to put on him this accusation of national economic sabotage, national security this, national security that? Something is
absolutely.
And as far as I'm concerned, we must talk now. We must shout now. Delegiwa did. Before he was bombed out of this world, he was shouting, said some people were trying to accuse him of gun running. Nobody took him serious. The next thing we had, he was killed. All right,
I'm going to bring in the AMCON angle to all of this, but let me read some tweets as well. Stan Chinozo says, I can remember that Capital Oil refused to keep petrol products, PMS, because they can evaporate, thereby making quantity loss.
The volume.
Would depreciate.
Yes.
So it's also possible for you to also be vicariously liable. For instance, if you keep 11, let's say this particular amount now, 11 million liters in my custody, and because you left it there for a long time,
you must have
it may evaporate and probably reduce to about 10 million. By the time you are taking, it's open to you to accuse me of being the one taking the 1 million liters.
I understand you went to secondary school very brilliantly. The truth of the matter is that the equation we were taught in secondary school, P1V1 over T1, is still equal to P2V2 over T2. When you keep an evaporable product, it must be evaporating. Such, even if you are carrying a volume of product in the truck, say from Lagos to Sokoto, provision is made for that variation. If you say it's 22,000 liters, what is loaded is between 23 and 25,000 liters.
So that 22 we get there.
So that you must make sure that 22 is there. And once they take 22, some others still remain in that tank. That is the culture of the business. That is how it is done. But I am not of the view, and we have not heard from Capital Oil and Gas that they did so because the products were evaporating. What I know that was done was that at the point of the inauguration of the current government, there was tension in the country. There was tension in the country. And when you don't have petroleum products, it also affects light. It affects so many things, businesses, movement, everything. And he thought it fit to say, let me take the risk and save this country of pushing this product to alleviate the sufferings of the masses, instead of listening to my co-businessmen who want to make money because the new government has not yet taken power. Let's make the profit we can before they settle down. He thwarted that. And when he did, he was doing it with the best altruistic motive any Nigerian citizen can have. Why is he being punished for it? And he took it upon himself, knowing what is written. Because Pilate said that what is written is written. That when I do such, I will pay penalty to NNPC on top of replacing the product. NNPC has not said that this has failed.
Perhaps he didn't proactively pay the money back. Could that have been probably what led to the insinuation of theft? Because if he had paid the money back immediately with the interest to NNPC, that the product you kept with me, I have sold it.
Why is it one person that will be paying in this country? You are owing me, I am owing you. We've not resolved how the payments will be made. Why is it Ifeanyi Ubah that will be always held by the juggler to keep on paying? You are owing me, I am owing you. Since 2015, they have been meeting. I know of that. Quarterly and to resolve the account. I said throughput businesses between them, and the business is round the clock.
And I'm sure after even this one, they had done business.
No, they've closed down the place. That is the point we're making, and you must tell Nigerians, Benga, the place is closed down, and the livelihood of about 2,000 human beings, citizens of this country, is at stake. My colleague said that. And if you close down the place, it means that people who earn a living on daily basis, loaders, cleaners, all sorts of human beings that work there, drivers, are without pay.
I'm sorry,
that's the Ibafojet tank farm alone that has been shut down.
Yes, I'm sorry, Benga, let's even add this to it. We should know that in business transaction between NNPC and its partners, NNPC is also owing several other partners. Ifeanyi Ubah is not the
NNPC is owing the federation
is also owing several other partners. That is the way of business in all these kind
Every
of
business establishment owes money.
Not even just in the oil sector, in
banks owe themselves.
So it's something very strange what's actually going on. That's why I'm saying that probably we may need to actually interrogate this further for us to actually understand the import of what the DSS is doing, because this action is inimical to national security of this nation. And it threatens the national security of this nation simply because, just like we have said, there are people who are earning daily living from the operation of Capital Oil, from that jetty. There are people whose livelihood is daily dependent on that. Yeah. And let's look at it. We are in a situation where we are losing jobs. We are in economic recession. Every action of government should be directed towards trying to remedy whatever challenges we are having. Now, a situation where you are attacking the big business players like Ifeanyi Ubah and running people out of jobs, I don't know what the government actually seeks to benefit from this kind of action. I don't know, probably people like Mr. Gbenga will help us to probably maybe redefine what the concept of national security to the DSS. With all due respect,
you are holding somebody in custody and you are purporting to negotiate. What kind of negotiation is that? Ifeanyi Ubah must be released today so that he can continue his negotiation with NNPC. Right. DSS has nothing whatsoever. They are meddlesome interlopers, and whoever they say they are working for, they are actually killing the democratic principles upon which this country is based, and they are not doing Mr. President any good.
I raised the issue of the AMCO angle not too long ago. I'm coming back to that, but let me read some Twitter again. Chukwuemeka also says, I am ashamed at how we keep going back and forth in conducting business in Nigeria. Yes. It's a shame. Then Omogbola Babs CFR says, Mr. Gbenga, on this Paris fund refund, Nigeria is doomed. The beautiful ones may not have been born.
Yes.
Let me see if 23 new ones. Let me see if I can. You ask yourself why the DSS is refusing to say what he did.
Yes. The detention is unwarranted.
That's TC saying that.
Yes. You said that you are holding him because he tried to incite strike. The tanker drivers have said he did not incite us.
No, they have the right. Sorry, they have the right to protest on behalf of
no. Their constitution says they can go on strike. I'm saying that the allegation of incitement has been denied by the organization.
Absolutely.
You said
don't even need to incite for you to be able to go on strike.
Question, for who is DSS now working?
Right.
Where NNPC has said, our hands is not in this. We are a business establishment. We are negotiating with Capital Oil. Tanker drivers have said, the man did not incite us. Are you keeping the man? Is he a cake? In your custody?
Omogbola Abab says such action from DSS is not only inimical in egregious, yes. It's a national embarrassment to the leadership of Muhammadu Buhari.
Thank you very much.
Then Ayo Adeyemi says, can a government that has no control on its DSS and can't give incentive to investment push us to our great destination? Then Stan Chinoso says, Bega, please, what really is the job of DSS? And remember, both NNPC and DSS boss are northerners. Okay.
Well, that would be interesting.
Tiger Kiyami says, government should not allow itself to be dragged into business conflict by some politicians. And then Biosa Chukwuka alive says NNPC has not complained about breach in contract. Why is the DSS gunning this man down?
Yes.
This is uncalled for, please. That's Biosa Chukwuka. And Omogbola says, whether anyone likes it or not, if the agencies are out to sniff life out of a business owners, it's the ordinary man that will suffer.
Yes.
And Jude Chetam says, we know that they are wishing the Igbos. Yes. All right, I brought the angle of the AMCON. I know, because I've had Ifeanyi Uba himself on this platform at the time when he was involved in a running battle with AMCON.
Yes.
I thought AMCON's primary objective was to help
build businesses.
If a particular business has potentials,
yes,
and maybe as a result of mismanagement here and there is having problems,
yes,
it is the business of AMCON to help in strengthening the management structures, not to seek to kill that business by dispossessing the owner of the sweat of his labor, strip the asset, sell it, pay back loan, forgetting completely about the workers whose own means of livelihood may have been ruined permanently in that process.
Yes. Because
I saw that AMCON is dragged in here.
Listen, Gbenga. I am sure you have never been detained in the police. I don't pray that you will be detained. When you are detained, you will see how these people operate. Listen, nobody from AMCON of any authority has come out to say we instructed DSS to do anything on our behalf. Mark you, the matter between Capital Oil and AMCON was in court.
And it has nothing to do with this one.
It has nothing to do. If anybody in DSS purports that they are working for AMCON, that is why I said they are meddlesome interlopers. Quo warranto, who invited them to work on behalf of AMCON? They have not told Nigerians and everybody else what they are holding Ifeanyi Uba for. I have said the two allegations. The first publication was that he is a thief. That has been debunked by NNPC. The other one is that inciting truck drivers to go on strike. Truck drivers have said Ifeanyi Uba did not incite us. The two platforms have collapsed. Why are you holding him? My take is this, that DSS no longer has any cogent and verifiable reason different from what they published as the reason for his arrest standing anymore. And that is why I am saying that the time and day to release Ifeanyi Uba from custody is today. So
they have alleged, the DSS has alleged that they are holding invalidly, that they have a court order which they got ex parte,
Yes.
which allowed them
Under
to
the
keep it
ACJA, under the
administration of criminal justice,
Act.
which allowed them to keep
hold
it for
him in, yes.
14 days
Yes,
at least.
yes.
But my worry is that isn't that itself an affront on the fundamental rights of a citizen as guaranteed by the Constitution? Because they are acting under a subsidiary law.
I submit with profound respect to you.
Why should
that-
you hold somebody
that-
without charging him?
That provision of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that violates the provision of Section 36 of the Constitution of Nigeria,
yeah.
1999, is to the extent of the inconsistency between the provision of the Constitution and itself
Void.
null and void and of no effect.
Yeah,
we are waiting
but
for
only
a
a court of law
pronouncement.
can do that.
We are waiting for a pronouncement of the Supreme Court on that. When something becomes trite, it is known even by ordinary people that provision is illegal.
Yeah.
You arrest me and you hold me for more than 24 hours. You run to a court.
Not to charge me to court.
And in the absence of my lawyer, you obtain an order ex parte from a court that has no jurisdiction, possibly to hear the case, the substantive matter, and you purport to detain me on those bases. It is Gestapo. It is the kind of act that makes a democracy a mockery in the international.
That will be your final comment.
So let me quickly add this,
Yeah.
and this should concern Nigerians and the security agencies. You saw the other time when EFCC busted the Ikoyi apartment. You saw them using raw hands to count money, destroying what we call the forensic evidence. Now, you see what the DSS is doing in the case of Ifeanyi Ubah, practically standing logic on its head. And this really ridicules the mode of operation of our security agencies. As a pro-democracy activist, what I'm saying is that the tenet of democracy must be respected in every action of the DSS and our security agencies. And this man that they have held, they should release him and allow him to contribute his own quota to the national development.
All right, let's leave it there. When is the return date for the case he filed?
That will be this month, I think 20 something. I'm not part of the legal team. But what I'm trying to say is that Ifeanyi Ubah has no criminal case to answer. He has no civil case to answer. He has no case to answer. DSS owes it to the provisions of the Constitution and perhaps the entire Chapter 4 of the Constitution to release him forthwith. All
right, thank you so much. Ifeanyi Ubah is facing these tribulations because he's an Igbo man. That's true. The work that is saying that Friday gift, and he's saying surely Ifeanyi Ubah is receiving unlawful treatment. The government of APC is not a true advocate of democracy.
And they are getting ready for election in Anambra State in November.
Okay.
They are welcome.
Right. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much. I've been joining these discussions as we look at the travails of businessman Ifeanyi Ubah and its Capital Oil, Ifeanyi Ubah has been in detention in the custody of the DSS for weeks now, and it has a result of fallout of business relationship between him, his company Capital Oil, and the NNPC. Thank you so much. I've been joined by Right Honorable Ben Chuks Nwosu, who is a legal practitioner and a former lawmaker as well. Thank you. I appreciate your finding time to be here. Ariyo Dari Atoye also joined us for the discussions. He's a pro-democracy activist, co-convener, coalition in defense of Nigeria democracy and constitution. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you too for investing your time with us. Do enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow. And for those raising the issue of the composition of the panel, be sure that everybody has a right of reply.